Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. Today, I am joined by Ingrid Hanson-Popp, caregiver, advocate, and author of Becoming an Orphan, The Caregiver's Guide to Lovingly Letting Our Parents Go. After working alongside her mom through her final days and now supporting her in-laws in their aging journey, Ingrid has become a powerful voice of hope for caregivers. She helps people navigate not only the practical realities of caring for aging parents, but also the pain, both physical pain their loved ones may endure and the emotional pain caregivers carry. Our mission is to help caregivers move from merely surviving to finding soulful ways to thrive. Welcome to the podcast, Ingrid.
Thank you, Wisdom.
Yeah,
It's good to be here.
yeah. From your perspective, how does pain, physical or emotional, shape the caregiving journey?
Wow. There's so many ways. So we have emotional pain as we watch our parents age, and it upturns the whole role. We expect our parents to be supportive of us and our solid place. And what we start feeling is that shift where they are having a hard time even managing their own lives, which means they usually most people don't have much for their adult children. And so there's that emotional pain of that change and a loss that mom and dad can't support me emotionally or what I'm doing like they used to. And I think there's also our parents or any aging loved ones, both parties are faced with life on this earth is only so long and it's coming to an end. And we have to start facing that. And I believe that a lot of times what your spiritual viewpoint is and afterlife and where is God and how will I meet him has a lot to do with mitigating that pain and fear as well. If someone doesn't have a hope for afterlife, I think it's more painful. Yeah, and I think the other thing is just physical pain. When somebody doesn't feel well,
Yeah,
they're not at their best. And I think a caregiver has to just stay aware of that and that parent is dealing with not only maybe physical pain, but also their fears. And they'll react in really negative ways. Yeah, so caregivers have to be extra sensitive and I think slow to speak sometime or slow to not to just react to those negative things because
yeah,
pain, you're just not yourself when you're in a lot of pain.
yeah. And one of the core things about caregiving is that you're always walking close to the person going through the pain. You're very close to them, like you're the closest to them in terms of, why they're going through the pain, why they're in agony and things like that. For me, I'm curious, how can caregivers have compassion? How can they show compassion without being consumed by the pain they witness?
Yes, I think that there's a place of humility that a caregiver has to come to say, I want to be able to control this or stop this pain, and I can't especially if it's a medical issue. And so there's a humility or a standing down, I think, because when caregiving starts, the danger for a caregiver is to get swept up in the problem solving. There's always problems to solve. You solve one and then there's another and another. And so we get in a action mode I have to solve this next problem. And if you stay too much in that space, you'll lose compassion. You'll lose listening to your parent. What listening beyond the words, I think. Listening, we miss that if we're so busy and preoccupied with everything that I'm facing is a problem to solve. And sometimes it just isn't. It's just the gift of what's called the gift of presence,
Yeah.
being with them. Yeah. And you have to take a break. A caregiver does have to take a break somehow, some way, even if it's a one of the things I talk a lot about is that a caregiver, when they see this journey coming or it's starting, is it's really important for that caregiver to find one supportive friend that might know the family even that that you can call, you can contact and say, "You know what? I'm so done here. I got nothing left. Can you come and sit with mom and dad for just a couple of hours so I can go whatever, shopping, go for a walk, take a nap, just to take a break from it." And that also is takes humility to say I've reached my limit and I need some support.
Yeah. You often talk about how caregivers can thrive and not just survive. For me, I'm curious to know, what does thriving look like when you're in the middle of exhaustion and overwhelm?
What does striving look like or thriving?
Thriving, yeah. Thriving.
Yeah. So what that looks like is reaching out to your team. And the book I talk a lot about building a team. Everybody's team is going to look different. One of the fellow orphans I interviewed, he was an only child, and his dad was gone, and his mom needed care for Alzheimer's. He and his wife didn't realize that his mom had Alzheimer's till fairly late. She hid it very well, and her friends helped her hide it. And he decided, he decided to bring her, she lived across the country, to bring her to live her last days with he and his wife. And that was his team. And it was his wife and then this one good friend who was long distance. But that was his team. And his wife was 110% with him. She was on board. So having that team, whereas another person I talked with, he was one of 10 siblings. And everybody had their job to help mom. So what it looks like in thriving is when you know you need a break. Yeah, you're exhausted. And I think, boy, I haven't thought of this as much as this conversation, but it takes humility to say, I'm fried, I can't do everything. And a lot of times it's saying, I wish I could do this differently, or I wish I could do more for mom. And I can't, of just accepting I'm doing the best I can do and having that team around you and reaching out to that team. So thriving, I think, means I'm living today. I'm going to do the best I can do today. I'm not going to try to fix everything. I'm going to try to fix what I can fix. I'm going to try to alleviate their discomfort how I can do it. Because a lot of that, the 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 place between striving and thriving is right up here in your head. It's
Yeah.
how you're thinking about what you're doing or not doing.
Yeah. Oh. There's a lot of emotional pain going on.
Sure is.
Yeah. In your book, Becoming an Orphan, the subtitle is Lovingly Letting Go. What does that mean? Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now let's get back to the conversation.
One of the regrets I have is when I look back on helping my mom, and she was independent, essentially independent, and she had all her mental faculties right up to the end. And so it wasn't as intense as some people go through. Yeah, and that subtitle is really important to me. In fact, my editor and I had a little argument about it. I'm like, no, lovingly has to stay in there.
Yeah.
And And the one thing I do regret is that, and that's why it's coming up in my other replies, I got caught in that vortex of, I got to solve this. I got to solve this. I've got to do this. I got to call this. I got to get my sister on board. I have to do this. And there were moments in those last couple of years when I know that my mom would have just liked me to come down and visit with her, sit and just talk. I went down to her place to visit, but I had this agenda. I have to help her with this at the house. We have got to go to this to the store. I need to ask her about this. And then we ran out of time to just visit. And that's where I missed the love part, because she just wanted, oh, you're going to make me cry. She
Sorry
knew,
about that.
and she knew that she was near the end, and she wasn't afraid. She had her faith in Christ and certainty of heaven and his salvation. But I know that her greatest joy was spending time with us kids, and that she would have loved to just visit a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the times, caregivers, they face the conflict of family dynamics, siblings disagree, parents resist help. It's chaotic. What's your advice
It
for
is.
for finding peace and unity in such moments?
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Chaotic is the word. It can be. Well, there's a couple of things where sometimes a family, the family dynamic is such that this would kind of, well, I mean, our family could talk about anything, but we didn't do real well with conflict with each other and talking about that. And one of the suggestions I put in the book is, let's say, like here in the United States, let's say a big decision is some people in the family think that mom and dad can live independently. And other people in the family are like, no, they can't. It's not safe. They're not doing well. We need to get them into a facility, or they need to move in with so and so or
Yeah,
something. So, and a lot of times, unfortunately, what happens is nobody talks to mom and dad. The adult children just like they take over. And one of the suggestions I have in the book is to find a friend, like a friend or a pastor or maybe a respected friend of the family person who can take a few steps back, and they can facilitate a meeting with all of the siblings in place, and mom and dad, because I think, yeah, because all the conflict, we think we know the best plan, and a lot of times mom and dad get left out of the conversation, which is ridiculous. So sometimes it's having someone that's an outsider or a trusted, like I said, a family friend. In my family, we would have had a pastor from our home church that we would have trusted to come do that and just get everybody talking.
yeah,
Uh, so that's one way. And I also write about and heard from the people I interviewed that it's stepping back. And as far as with siblings, some siblings don't want to be involved if they live across country, and they just kind of want to keep it that way.
yeah,
And it will always require whoever kind of defaults to the leader of who's doing the caregiving. It happened to be me, because I lived closest to mom, and my brother and sister my brother was working out of state, long distance for months at a time, and my sister lived just far enough away. So it fell to me, which is fine. So usually as situations change with health and parents, a point person or a lead person will kind of surface one way or another, but it involves difficult conversations. Say, for example, if there's a sibling that doesn't want to get involved, to say, do you want me to just keep you informed? Like, do you want me to just shoot you an email? Do you want to be on the Zoom calls if we, have one all together? Is there any way that you can help? Sometimes it becomes a financial thing. Now, in our family, it did not, but a financial need that needs to be shared among the siblings. And so it might be the difficult conversation of, the emotions are so tough in this. Do you want to participate, like I said, in these meetings? Are you able to help share the financial load because every month all of us have to come up with X amount of money for this for mom
Yeah.
because she doesn't have it. And it's the letting go. It's the asking the question, and then if they say no, it's like it could, and they may or may not tell you why. It may just be that it's too emotional. Uh, it may bring up old conflicts that they have or bitterness that they have with mom and dad, and they just don't want to be around them. They don't want to deal with it. And
Yeah.
it's very hard.
Yeah. Well, uh, you one of the things I've noticed is that um, in your own situation, I feel like your own caregiving was quite different because you're both your family member and you're also a caregiver, you know. And then there are caregivers who they're not family members, you know, they're just strangers, and giving care. For a lot of earlier on I mentioned that how do caregivers care, have compassion such that you're not consumed by the pain and the grief, and you're kind enough to respond to that. I want us to take it a bit further. A lot of the times, especially if the person you're caring for has uh, very high demands depending on their health situations. Um, the caregivers often neglect their own well-being, right?
Hmm.
Right, there's so many running around, things to then is attending to. And so for me, the question is, what are some practical ways they can care for themselves without the guilt, without neglect?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah. From let me give you practical and then practical ideas and then uh the motivation or the motivation that has to be behind it. So for example, a simple thing is if you are with your elder, caring for them a lot. I mean, like full time or all day long or
Yeah,
overnight or something like that. That's intense. Which I've had very little to do of that, but it's very intense. And that one of the things is if your elder is taking a nap, you take a nap. Figure out a system where you know when they're awake, whether it's a little buzzer or a bell or you set a timer. If they're taking a nap, you take a nap. It's very much like when the parents have children, right?
yeah,
You're so aware of that child's schedule and you work around it. Um, but you bring up an interesting point in there sometimes are moments, and I don't know what you have available in Nigeria. So here we have some uh, uh, companies that can provide either extensive caregiving, live in kind of a thing, and includes medical, nursing, and that kind of thing. But there are also services that will come in and just say help help your parent with bathing and basically getting dressed and things like that, because that can be real awkward for a son or daughter to do. And it's also it's hard physical it can be hard physical work to help them bathe and all of that. So sometimes it's the choosing to, okay, it's going to cost the family a little bit of money to have a professional caregiver come in and just do X, Y, and Z 3 days a week.
yeah,
But it will relieve the family member. And that's worth it because then the family member has more energy, more to give in that loving path, that lovingly caring for their elder because there's some energy left for them. What else? I keep coming back to the team. For example,
yeah,
it, even if it were house cleaning or you're taking care of your elder and then maybe even living part-time there. And then there's just the taking care of keeping the laundry going and the grocery shopping and the just keeping the household clean. That might be somewhere where you would hire somebody in. Or go to, if you have a faith community, ask, like what we do here a lot of times is, I mean, and long before technology and the internet, my mom used to do this at church. They would be on somebody was having a hard time, or someone was sick in the household. And so there was this whole list of people that would bring meals, like meals for 2 weeks, like every couple days. And maybe it's your role, because mom or dad is too much to deal with as it is, to reach out and find out, okay, can I just get a what we call a round robin of somebody to bring healthy meals? Here are our restrictions. And there's like an online service. We can do that here.
Yeah.
So the motive behind that, I talk about the parable that Jesus told about the good steward, who one was given 1 talent, one was given 2, and one was given 10, or whatever it was. And the person with 1 talent was afraid, and so they just hid it in the ground. And then the owner came back and said, well, you didn't do anything with what I gave you. You didn't steward it. You didn't multiply it. You didn't work with it. And it's kind of a jump, but in my head, that what I learned from that is that I have to take care of what God's given me, a life and a health and responsibilities, maybe other, whether it's my own husband or kids or whatever. He's given me these responsibilities. It's my responsibility to take care of them, and to be a good steward of that, to be a good steward of myself, my own health. Because if this goes downhill, guess what? I won't be in any shape to help my elder.
Yeah, 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 very important. I like the way you put that, and it gives perspective to the importance of the caregiver's health, as well as, because if
Mhm.
the caregiver is not strong, who will end up taking care of who? We don't want
Exactly.
the person who needs care to be caring for the caregiver.
Exactly. Exactly.
uh,
There's
well,
I just thought of one other. This is really practical, and my friend Valerie, who helped with, she contributed to the mental health chapter. And one of the things she urged people is to somehow, well, two things. She told a lot of things, but 2 things come to mind. And one was, somehow keep your own, uh, uh, whether it's close friendships or if you're married, special time with your spouse once a week. It may have to look a little different than when you're not caregiving, but make sure you keep that rhythm happening. That's just for your own relationships and your own emotional well-being, or your spiritual disciplines, which again have to take a different shape, perhaps. But getting to your own church or whatever. And then the other really super along the physical lines is, if your loved one's in a facility or you have to be there a lot, and this can come and go, or it can be even hospice. If a loved one's in the hospital in hospice, we also have hospice at home care as well. But if your loved one's in a facility in a hospital, most hospitals have here anyway, have like a physical therapy department or a gym, like an actual physical fitness place. And if you're there taking care of your family member, it would take a little asking to figure out can I use that? When is the physical therapy room not used? It might be 11 o'clock at night when you're trying to sleep on the couch to be near your loved one. You can go down and you can do a workout to keep your own body moving and keep your exercise going. Which I thought was I haven't had, my mom wasn't in the hospital very long. And so I thought that was a brilliant idea.
it is a brilliant idea. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ingrid. For caregivers listening who feel completely unseen, at some point in time, it seems as if the work they're doing, it's not even noticed. And
Mm.
what's one message of encouragement you want them to walk away with today?
Oh boy. Well, my immediate response, because of my perspective, is that and it comes back to the lovingly part, but is that God sees everything. God sees everything. God sees every sacrifice, and sometimes putting yourself back, well, anyway, that yeah, that God sees every sacrifice, and when you feel like you don't have anything left, it's very important to pay attention to um it's very important to pay attention to that. What do I need? Asking yourself, what do I need? Because am if you feel so overwhelmed and unseen, which can lead to depression, all sorts of, again, you're not going to be in good shape to help to care for your loved one.
Yeah.
You have to ask the question, what do I need most? Do I need a good night's sleep? Do I need some decent food because I've been eating like on the run? Do I need a 30-minute phone call with my trusted friend? I can just vent and get their support from me. And in the end, it matters. It matters all that we do, especially in love and in service. It all counts.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Ingrid. Where can the listeners learn more about the work you do? Uh, the book we mentioned, Becoming an Orphan,
Hmm.
and also connect with you.
Yes, the website is just becominganorphan.com, and there are lots of resources on there. You can connect with me personally, um, and there is also a link for an online support group with other fellow orphans that I facilitate. I keep it small and short. It is based on timing in the United States. So there's one that's early in the morning, one that's late at night. Um, just to talk with other caregivers, because as you mentioned back at the beginning, sometimes talking about a problem or situation with our siblings who have different opinions doesn't really get us anywhere.
Yeah.
But venting with a friend who's just there for me, that can help. So anyway, so that's what they're called, two are better than one groups. That's on there. But I also have, there's some little, just short, I have radio spots. And so they're 2 minutes of just an encouragement, just a topic. There's always several of those on there. And yeah, so just at becominganorphan.com. And yeah, so
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. I'll add the link you mentioned in the description and in the show notes so listeners can click and go directly to the site. Once again, it's been an absolute delight chatting with you, Ingrid.
thank you so much. Really thoughtful questions. It
Yeah.
sounds like you live in it. Sounds like you either are in this kind of space or you have been.
That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life's special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.